So now that you know everything there is to know about sugar and about processed food, what do you actually do about it? And if you're like me, you're not gonna do much, because people don't change in one day. You know, and you need to hear it. You need to hear. You know what's gonna make you change? What's gonna make you change is when something happens. You know, when something happens to you or your child, which I don't wish, then you change real quick. You change in one day, cold turkey. But when everything is good, why? You know, you can't. It's normal. It's normal. You can't change because there's two things, you know, in genetics. How do genes work? How does natural selection, how does evolution work, right? How you have a force, a changing force, right? Mutations, that's a changing force. Without that, evolution is not possible, right? If you don't change, if your genes don't change, you cannot evolve. There's no way you can evolve. You have to change. But imagine if you change all the time, you change non-stop and there's uncontrollably, then evolution is also not possible, right? So there are two forces in nature that are built into the nature. That's something that something has to change, but something has to also preserve. Liberal and conservative. Change and preservation. The same thing, the same way our mind works. There's a curiosity in your mind. You want to find out, well, what is this? How does this work? What is this new thing? But then there's a force in your mind which clings on to your beliefs, to your traditions, etc., etc., etc. Which is, there's a value in that too, you know. And you shouldn't jump on anything that you hear today. So you need to hear. So in order for a change to take place, you need to hear it many times from many sources. But what I want to ask you to do is, I want you to be honest with yourself. Just be honest. Don't be honest with me or whatever. Don't be honest with other people. You know, that's another myth. No, we're not honest. We lie all the time, right? So that's okay. You can lie to other people, but try. You're gonna also lie to yourself, but try not to lie to yourself and ask yourself this question. Listen. You know, some of you did not listen to everything I said. You just discredited it right away. You just laughed at me right away. Okay, that's fine. But some of you listen, and after you listen, you ask yourself, do you think it's true? Which part of that is true? Which part of this is not true? Just ask yourself. You know, try. Say, why do I think this is true? Why do I think this is not true? Do your research, whatever. Okay, if this is true, why am I not changing my life? Why am I doing this to my kid? Why am I feeding? Why do I keep buying those cupcakes for the birthday? Why do I insist on doing that? And I will tell you why. First of all, it's you. Okay, you cannot just, there's so much conflicting information. You cannot just believe, you know, something that you hear. You'll go crazy. Because there's you know, I tell you one thing, but somebody else will tell you another thing, and you know, you have to listen a little bit to this, a little bit to that, and little by little you come. You know, if somebody tries to sell you something, right? I hope you don't buy it right away, even if you really want to buy it, even if somebody makes a really good sell to you, and they say, okay, if you buy it now, you know, I'll give you a really good deal. I hope, and this is me talking to my kids, right? I hope, never say yes, never, ever, ever. Whenever they say this, if you buy this today, I'll give you $500 discount. This is the reason you don't buy it today, because this is just my life experience. This is how it works. Okay, if somebody has integrity, if somebody is really selling you a good product, they don't need to use those gimmicks. If they're using a gimmick, if they're pressuring you, that's you gotta, you know. You might get lucky one day, but statistically you will get screwed. Okay, So yes, you shouldn't believe me right away. You shouldn't change your life right away. But start thinking about it. And this is normal that you don't change right away. Second reason is the society we live in. And there's so many, you're gonna tell yourself different things, and one of those things you're gonna tell yourself, well, you have to balance everything. How about you're gonna say, how about the psychological, how about the social aspect of it, right? So everybody, or the psychological aspect of it, like everybody, you know, if I say to my kid, you know, you cannot have any sweets, you know, well then you're gonna rationalize why you give your kid birthday cakes. The way you're gonna rationalize is because you're gonna say, you know, this, if you prohibit it, that kid is gonna want it even more. That's typical. Sure. Well, try that with cigarettes. Say yourself, if I prohibit my kid, if I tell my kid not to smoke, strictly prohibited, that kid is gonna want to smoke even more, right? Same logic, right? Same with alcohol. So that logic is if you're honest with yourself. See, it's about honesty. Okay, if you want to ask yourself, am I being honest or am I rationalizing? Okay, rationalizing is normal. We usually decide somewhere subconsciously, we decide what we're gonna do. Somehow, genetically maybe, I don't know, we decide if we're gonna be Republican or Democrat, and then all we do is we just rationalize. We protect our beliefs. We don't really, we say, well, it all makes sense, it's all logical. All you're doing is rationalizing. You've made your decision based on some hormones, I don't know, based on some genes, on some hormones, on social interactions. So yeah, socially it's very, very hard, because this is so much ingrained in the culture. You know, you attribute food has a lot of social value, as we know, and people attach a lot of emotional value to the food, right? So this is the whole thing with the birthday cake. Like, I mean, somebody is, you know, when they give you that cookie, when they give you that birthday cake, when you give you that ice cream, when you invite you to their house and they give you the ice cream, you know, they're trying to show how much they appreciate you, right? They're trying to show how much they love you, right? That's the idea behind. And so if you reject that, it's like you're rejecting their love, right? You're disrespecting them. You're denying your grandma, you know, that the pleasure of giving the cookie to the kid, because which she gives with such love, and that's understood, you know. And I was, you know, and I, you know, when I was younger, and I tried to support my wife, I didn't support her as much as I should have with this war on sugar, because there's a better way to support her. But I did try to support her, not because I understood the problem with sugar, but because I thought it was right. You know, it was right to support my wife. And I fought my family with this when they try to give cookies, and I fought it, but I fought them in a stupid way. You know, in a very, I was young, and I was very like black and white, kind of categorical kind of guy, and I didn't understand. I wasn't as wise as I am right now. And but you have to be strong. You have to be strong, but you also have to understand how people are, and you have to meet people where they are. Okay. So what do? You talk to your kid. You talk to yourself. You understand yourself. You talk to a kid. You explain. Okay. You also try to explain to other people, right, your reasons. You don't just say no. You don't just say no, but you explain. Sometimes you have to be. You have to use some tricks. Maybe you can use tricks. You can lie. You can say, oh, you know, I have an allergy. My kid has an allergy. I have an allergy, or whatever. Or you know what, I'm full. Or you know what, we plan the dinner later. Whatever. You can come up with all kinds of stuff. Try. You have to understand that people don't have the same information as you. They're not gonna get it. okay? Because just the way I didn't get it, just the way nobody gets it right away. So you have to try to balance those things out, and you have to be kind to people. Be kind, okay? Understand, sometimes you have to yield. What are you gonna do? You have to yield, but that doesn't. It's just like it doesn't mean you're weak, right? When you yield, it doesn't mean you're weak. That's the concept of judo that I love. That the Japanese use this example to explain judo. When you have a hard branch, very, very hard, strong branch of a tree, when you pile snow on it, that branch eventually is going to break. But if you have a flexible branch, it's going to bend, it's going to let the snow fall, but it's not going to break, okay? So just because you're flexible and kind and understanding and considerate, it doesn't mean you're weak. Okay, you're weak if you haven't thought about this, if you have not changed your mind about this, if you're dishonest with yourself, if you have not done the work, if you have not done the research, if you are afraid to talk to your child about this and explain and insist day after day about the right things to do. That makes you weak. If you explain to somebody something and you said this is the right way to do it, but then there's other considerations. I mean, you have a 80-year-old person, you're not going to change their mind, right? You know, what are you going to achieve? What are you going to achieve? One cookie is not going to make a difference. Maybe you have to consider everything, all the emotional aspects of it, right? And maybe you can be flexible. Maybe you can be that branch that bends a little bit and lets the snow fall. But it doesn't mean you give up, right? You don't give up. You tell a child, okay, listen, go ahead and take the cookie from the grandma. That's fine. It's not gonna kill you. That's fine. I'll make an exception. Then you go home and you explain. Listen, I did this. We did this because we were kind to grandma. Because to grandma, this means a lot. Okay, this is what I didn't understand when I was younger, and I still don't understand a lot of stuff. I'm sure. We always think we understand everything. Right? This is natural, but I'm sure years later I'll be like, what an idiot was I? So yeah, social, but think about it also another way. There's another way to think about it. There's no right answer. You want your kid to be able to resist peer pressure, right? When your kid is offered drugs, bad drugs that are considered bad, right? Which is a big question. What's worse? Big question in my mind. The officially bad drugs versus the drugs that are blessed by the FDA. But let's say the drugs that you consider bad, do you imagine a situation where there is a peer pressure, where everybody's smoking something, and you want your kid to be able to say no. You ask yourself, what kind of lesson am I teaching my kid when I have certain beliefs, I've done my research, I know what it is, and then I go to a party and I just succumb to the peer pressure. I just succumb to the culture, and it's not easy. You have to figure out some tools. How are you going to deal with it? What are you going to say when people are going to say, oh come on, everybody's going to eat it and your kid is not going to eat it? What are you doing to a kid? That's so bad, psychologically. It's terrible. People are going to try to make you feel bad about your decisions. That's what it comes down to. What was I going to say? I was going to say so many things, but of course, preparation and planning is not my strong thing. So, no, I'm going to cut it short for now.